when you feel like you're the best you, that's when you're able to do the best work, the best, giving back. So I think if you really prioritize just self-care and taking care of you, like that's what's going to, help the planet overall as well. Because I don't think it's necessarily about, having 5 black shirts and that's all you wear. But if you have, 10 shirts that you wear all the time, like I think that's fine too. But I think it's really asking yourself, why do I need these things? It's kind of like the Marie Kondo, like what brings you joy? Like there's similarities there. But I think it's just good to have everything serve a purpose and like truly be there for a reason and not be something you're going to throw out, in a couple of months.
Hello and welcome to the Plant Paradigm Podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with amazing individuals from all around the world and look to create a clean, green and sustainable future for all beings. I'm your host, Tom Simak, a fellow plant eater and athlete who is here to facilitate these conversations for the betterment of all. Now, who you heard at the beginning was Jhánneu. Just before we get into the episode, if you enjoy these conversations, please leave a review. I believe the 2 places you can do so is Apple and Spotify. So just click in that 5-star. I read every single one of them, and the reviews really help out in terms of getting this podcast more eyes and ears, which is what we want, especially if we're talking about climate change, sustainability, environmentalism. These are things that we want people to be, I guess for lack of a better word, woke about. So I appreciate any reviews greatly. But on to today's conversation. Jhánneu is a blogger, influencer, writer, and expert in all things sustainability. She's also been featured on Forbes, Buzzfeed and Goodful. She focuses specifically on sustainable skincare and lifestyle changes everyday people can make to contribute toward a cleaner future. This comes in the form of eco tips, minimalism, consumerism, and what we can do on individual levels for the betterment of ourselves and the planet. I know a lot of times it can seem overwhelming. Like if I was the CEO of a Shell, I could make all these differences. But at the end of the day, a lot of us are just individuals. And knowing that we can make individual change is really inspiring and hopeful. So I hope you get that out of today's episode. I most definitely did. With all that being said, I will see you on the other side. Jhánneu, welcome to the Plant Paradigm Podcast. How are you going?
Good. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. I originally came across you through Instagram, as most people do in this 21st century. And it was all about sustainability. And I love the topic. I live and breathe the thing, and I'm sure you do as well. So I always love hearing, what is the thing that you've learned recently about sustainability that you've really implemented into your life?
I think for me, it's, there's no way to be perfectly sustainable or like perfectly zero waste. Like unless you're living on a farm, growing your own food, riding a bike, like there's no way to be perfectly zero waste. So you kind of have to just work with what you have, and you can't be too hard on yourself if you're not perfectly, sustainable. And I think just doing the best with what you have, is the best way to kind of, get started with sustainability. And I'm always learning new things every day. I think sometimes when people kind of label you as an expert or whatever the case may be, they think that you kind of like know everything. It's like there's still so much that I'm learning and need to learn every single day. So I think it's just always educating myself on how I can be just a better environmentalist, a better just like human being overall. Because kind of my whole message is like, take care of yourself so you can take care of the planet. Because I think it's hard to think about all these big picture things or big world things when you have your own stuff going on.
100%. You got to fill your own cup first. How can you fill someone else's?
Yes.
I really wanted to dive into the topics of like zero waste versus low waste. So I'm glad you brought it up early on. I find it fascinating because I think I really like the fact that you took the approach of, zero waste is I don't want to say unattainable, because anyone who's zero waste, which I don't think I've met anyone, that
Hmm.
I forgot her name. She did a TED talk and she brought up this glass.
Lauren Singer, yes.
That's right. And
Yeah.
she's zero waste, but I'm like, man, I respect the crap out of that.
Hmm.
But I'm like, how can the average person learn from that without kind of taking themselves really harshly to the point where, if I create waste, am I a
Hmm.
lesser of a person? And you become strict on yourself. Have you found that?
Um, I mean, I think first and foremost, when you see people that, no shade to anyone that has a glass jar, but
No.
I think first and foremost, when you see someone that like says, "Oh, like 5 years of my trash fits into a glass jar," it's still not telling the whole story, because like even if you're like going to the grocery store and you're shopping in bulk, 9 times out of 10, like those products that you're buying in bulk came in a plastic bag, right? So you may not be taking the waste home, you may not be throwing it away, but there's still waste involved in you receiving this zero waste product or item. So I think if people realize that and realize that like it's impossible to really fit all your waste in a jar, then I think people would feel as though they could do it too and they could reduce their waste. But
Mm,
I've never been one to be like, I can fit all my trash in a jar, because I just also I feel like it makes it seem so unattainable, and like impossible to do. But I think if you're just like honest about kind of your journey and how you're imperfect, but you're doing your best, it kind of inspires others as well.
I love that, because the whole concept of it being unattainable is very damaging to the actual cause. It's almost, it deters people in a way. And I actually really love the fact that you brought up the fact that these zero waste stores actually come from plastic. This is something I learned very recently. Me and my fiance went to the Source, which is, I'm not sure what the US equivalent is, but it's a store that you just purchase like your pasta and your soap and
Got
whatever
it.
without plastic.
Got it.
And it's a kind of like a bulk place. And as we're kind of there doing our shopping, we see that they're filling up these huge containers from a massive plastic bag. And we're like,
Yeah.
I I don't know what I expected in my mind. And I don't know if it's a case of I buried my head a little bit. I thought it comes in like boxes or in glass or something less, but I suppose in my mind it's one big plastic thing, and I don't need a kilogram of something if I just need 100 grams. And I
Mhm.
suppose that's where like 10 people that need 100 grams can share the one bag. But it's, to your point and to the point of this whole thing, it's, we've taken away that perception of it has to be perfect, because there's still plastic involved there. It's just the lesser evil, if that makes sense.
No, exactly. I mean, obviously, having a big plastic bag full of what, let's say, is pasta, and now 100 people don't have to take single use plastic bags home. Like, yes, it is better, but I think it's just important for people to realize that being zero waste is pretty much impossible.
Yeah.
And
Unfortunately.
yeah, unfortunately, and to not be too hard on yourself about it, and to that's why there's so many different creators to follow, but I like how a lot of people that I follow are very real about
Do you want to drop
I
some
went
names?
to yeah, there is a queer brown vegan,
Yep.
there's green girl Leah, it's hard because I'm like, there's all these people I follow.
Mm.
Who else is good? There's Sustainably Vegan, that I love. She's based in the UK. So I love how like, all those people are very like, I do the best that I can with what I have, but like there's still some plastic in, the things that I do in my everyday life. But I just like do the best that I can.
Yeah, we can't bounce around and avoid the fact that society isn't built at the moment to be zero waste. Society's built at the moment to be high level consumerists, to consume the single use products. It's rewarded in the convenience factor. And until that shifts, I feel like we have to really lean into the fact that we can't be perfect, and that's okay. It's perfectly imperfect. It's like that saying, we'd rather most of the population do a little bit than just a little bit do
Mm-hmm.
most.
Exactly.
What else have you implemented recently that you really like in terms of sustainability? Like, have you wait? Let's go back to zero waste.
Yeah.
Have you
Okay.
actually done? Because I'm curious about this topic. Have you done
Mhm.
like a week stint where you try to produce nothing of the waste?
Um, no, because I think I, on a daily basis, am asking myself, how can I be more sustainable? So I
Mhm.
personally don't feel the need to go that extreme, and kind of say, like, I'm not going to, create waste for a week or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be, because I think it's just a daily habit and like a daily, or it's just a state of mind for me, like if I'm going to the grocery store and I forget my reusable bag, I just throw everything in the car versus, getting a bag. And it's just like habit. It's an effort. You've been doing it for so long, you just like are automatically thinking of these things. So I don't feel the need to,
Mm.
kind of put myself in this box, I guess you could say.
No, and we might be going back in time a little bit, but how did you initially develop the habit? Because that's where I think a lot of people struggle with your example in particular, like
Hmm.
going to shops, you forget, all right, let's just purchase. Well, right now where I live, it's actually illegal to have those single use bags. You have to purchase those plastic bags
Paper
that are
ones.
reusables or
Oh,
paper
okay,
ones
okay.
or like those
Hmm.
fabric cotton ones.
Hmm.
But a lot of the time people go and they forget, "Oh, I'll just use plastic this one time," or they use this plastic bottle this one time. And I get there are exceptions to the rule depending on your circumstances, but developing that habit is the real challenge. So do you remember how you kind of worked around that to now be at the stage you are now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it started small. I kind of got into sustainability, because I got really into minimalism and just like the idea of kind of living with less and just like being very intentional about the things that you're buying and the things that you're bringing into your home. And so I feel like when you have that mindset of just like being intentional, it kind of like goes, across the board. Like, is this something I should be spending my money on? Is this something that's going to create waste? So I think I kind of developed that sort of muscle when I kind of went on a little minimalist journey. I'm not perfectly minimalist by any means. I do think I own like less stuff or less clothes than your average woman, let's say. Um, but I think I just started to really think about, the things that I own and like what I'm bringing into my home. And, it can start as simple as like, okay, like this is my kitchen. Like, what are some sustainable swaps that I can make? And then it just becomes a habit and you're constantly thinking about it. And it's just like second nature, to kind of try to do the most sustainable thing possible. Um, what is it like? It takes 30 days to form a habit or
Mm.
something like
The
that.
the number changes every time I hear the quote.
Yeah, I don't know what the number is, but the point is that like when you like are, I think when it's a part of your routine, like whether it's composting or whatever the case may be, or going to the farmers market once a week, I
Mm.
think when it's part of just like like part of your routine and like what you're doing on your daily life, it just becomes normal, and then it's just a habit that you don't have to think about.
Yeah, I want to circle back to the clothes part of things because that's really fascinating, and I love that you're drinking out of a mason jar. That's incredible. Um, so clothes is a big one. I'm not gonna kind of put women in the center of this because I think men can be just as guilty. So there's lots of different ways you can adopt this. I want to hear what you've kind of thought of in terms of the clothes sector and how you go about it.
Yeah, it's a hard one because sustainable clothes are just really expensive.
True that.
Like it's like a shirt is $100, which I understand why, right? If you're
Mm,
using quality fabric, you're paying your workers, all the things, like I get why it's expensive, but it makes it seem, or it's just hard for someone who is on a budget to kind of get into it. But what I recommend to people and what I also do myself is I love to go thrifting. You can do that both in store or online. So you can find like some of your favorite items, or staples, whatever the case may be, and you can find that at a thrift store. For me, I just don't really buy that many clothes just in general. I don't really believe in like buying, what's in style, what's what's trending this week. Um, because I think, when these brands are like new styles, new this, and it's like every single week, like they want you to keep buying and buying. And that's
Mm.
like more waste, more things being produced. And I try to keep it simple. The whole minimalism thing, like I'm very like black, white, blue, gray, keep it simple. I like to wear items that go with each other. Um, I mean, I could probably add a little bit more color into my life, but I think you need less things when everything kind of goes with one another and it's not like a bright
Mm.
purple top, you know? But I think you can express your style if you're someone that is colorful through thrifting because you can find really cool items that way. And it's just going to save you a lot of money and it's going to cut down on like just production and prevent something from going to landfill.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm glad we're kind of on the topic of minimalism. I remember first being introduced through a YouTube creator called Matt D'Avella, and speaking
Yes.
of clothes, he's got
Yeah.
like the 7 of the same colored shirts, and they're the exact same design. It's just hilarious the way that people go about it. You don't need it. You don't need this flashiness that we're so accustomed to. But on the point of like trending and like almost fad style clothing, but like going on the styles. My fiance does a thing where you rent dresses for the weekend, and that way you don't need to purchase
Yes.
them, and then you just send it back. So I find that's a pretty nice, sustainable way to go about it. But I want to kind of put a lens on minimalism for a second. What does it? Because we've kind of talked about what it kind of looks like, but what does it mean for you exactly?
I think it's only bringing things into your life that like bring you joy and serve a purpose. Um, because I don't think it's necessarily about, having five black shirts and that's all you wear. But if you have, 10 shirts that you wear all the time, like I think that's fine too. But I think it's really asking yourself, why do I need these things? It's kind of like the Marie Kondo, like what brings you joy. Like there's
Mm,
similarities there. But I think it's just good to have everything serve a purpose and like truly be there for a reason and not be something you're going to throw out, in a couple of months. Um, but I think it's just like finding joy in like less and having less. And it could be like high quality things. Don't get me wrong. Like I like nice things, but I don't feel the need to have a million t-shirts, right?
yeah,
Like I can have a few nice ones instead of having a ton. Um, but I think it just really comes down to just being intentional, living with less, and just finding kind of joy in that. And that's kind of how what it means for me.
I love that. I mean, we've talked about minimalism, clothing, and plastic use. All of this center around this topic of sustainability. And I think I'm going to ask you a question that I think we don't
Mhm.
ask ourselves very often, which is, what is your reason for even wanting to be sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, um, it comes down to like how can I be the best version of myself. And I think when you think about that, like, okay, I want to be a kind human being. I want to be successful. I want to live a healthy life. um, and when you think about all these things that um, kind of make you feel as though this is like the best version of yourself, um, the planet, the earth, everything, like that's, you can't like we need like trees and plants and everything for us to be the best version of ourselves. And I think when it comes to waste, um, I don't know how to explain having waste without like it's just wasteful. Like I don't know the better way to explain it,
Mm,
but it's like why be wasteful if you can prevent that from happening, right? Like if you like anytime I like have wasted something, like I didn't use something and I just threw it away, like that feels bad. Like it feels like you're just not the best version of yourself, I guess, or you're not doing I guess doing your part in the grand scheme of things. But for me, I just really wanted to just be the best version of myself, and I thought reducing my waste was a good way to just be more intentional about the way that I live my life and like how I don't want to leave, bad things behind. Like I want to like leave a good kind of imprint on the world.
Yeah, I like the way this is going because really, when I'm looking at your content on Instagram or your blog, it's kind of like if you're there and you're interested in sustainability, this is the how. So I really like those actionable tips that you kind of leave people. And speaking of which, I can't have you on here and not talk about skincare, which is something you've posted a fair bit about, and it's something I'm not really that into, but I'm
Hmm.
sure a lot of people listening and or watching are. So I want to kind of get some of your tips on sustainable or eco-friendly skincare, whatever that happens to mean, because it's a very kind of nuanced terminology. So maybe defining why you would want to have eco-friendly skincare and what that really means, and then circling into how we can make that a reality, introduce that into your life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would say, um, first and foremost, it's like the amount of chemicals they're putting into products is insane. Like, I'm sure the regulations are probably better in Australia.
Not that much better, but maybe a
No,
little bit.
okay, maybe a little bit better than the US. But I think first and foremost, like I'm intentional about the things I put into my body and on my body, and I don't want things that are chemicals like entering my body. And skin's the largest organ, and like that whatever is on that face cream is also going into your body. um so first and foremost, it's just making sure that anything that I'm putting on and into my body is clean, and like there's no toxic chemicals. When it comes to like kind of creating a skincare routine that's sustainable, I always tell people to um you know less is more. Like, don't feel the need to buy like 50 million products, because I think especially for women, it's like we buy like everything. I'm guilty of it. I used to do that back in the day because you want to try different things. Um, but also looking for products that come in specific packaging. So I like to find things that come in glass or aluminum, which is recyclable. Um, and then there are products that are made out of like sugarcane packaging, which still like is better than plastic, but still not ideal because like that's not really getting recycled. Um, but for me, I just love like a nice like bar soap to wash my body or face. And then I'll use like a face oil that comes in glass. There's so many different brands out there. There's one from Kypress Beauty. There's one from Biossance that I like as well. But if you can find like a nice face oil that comes in glass that you can easily recycle or upcycle, and then a nice sunscreen as well. I've been using the sunscreen from Coco Kind. It comes in sugarcane packaging. I'm still trying to figure out um, a better sunscreen alternative, because the issue is that a lot of skincare brands, when they're making sunscreen, like they're made for white skin. And so if you were to put it on me, it's very like ashy or very you
Mm.
can tell that there's sunscreen on my face, which is not what you want. So I think what's important too, as we're creating these products, whether it's hair or skin, that we create products that can fit for everyone, because oftentimes that's not thought about when these products are created. Because skincare and hair care is not a one size fits all sort of thing. Um, but that's definitely kind of like my daily routine is like a bar soap and face oil, sunscreen, and then at night I'll just use like a face oil and keep it simple. There are things here and there that I try, like face masks and stuff like that. I'll get sent different products, but I learned that just my skin likes to keep it simple and not have like 50 million products. But I would really look for just like natural ingredients, as well as packaging that tends to be aluminum or glass, um, is what I tell people to do.
With the packaging, I just want to zoom in on that section. So firstly, I want to tackle why exactly you avoid the sugarcane packaging and where you think that could be improved. Secondly, how do you find out what the packaging is? Because I'm sure some people don't even think about that. Is it written somewhere? Do you message the brand? How do you go about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think you can look on the website, and most brands that I've seen, they like it will say like this is a glass bottle. You can recycle. You can also see it on the box itself that it's a glass bottle. And sometimes it's pretty like obvious that it's glass or obvious that it's aluminum. But a lot of times brands are kind of advertising that as well. So like Osea is a really great brand that I like. They have the pump is plastic, but they do have a glass bottle and their ingredients are just very, very clean. So there is this balance because like I don't think sustainability is all about the plastic or the packaging. It's also about like, well, are the ingredients ethically sourced? Are their workers fair or paid fairly? Like I think there's more than one aspect to sustainability, and it's not just the packaging. But definitely, you can go on. There's a variety of different like sustainable skincare brands where they literally break down what it is. Like Coco Kind, if you look on um, the back of their box, it literally breaks down like if I remember correctly, like the amount of emissions that it takes to create it. It like it
Wow.
kind of tells you
Awesome.
everything. So I
Mm.
think a lot of brands now are kind of giving you a little kind of rundown of start to finish of what makes up this product.
Yeah, I'm really glad that brands are kind of taking that approach, and I've seen a lot of them really claim a few things. Especially, I've seen travel companies recently, claim carbon neutrality and all these different
Mm-hmm.
things, and I'm really stoked about that. I'm also hoping that they're being honest, because I think there needs, like, just on a side rant, there needs to be a third party that's looking into that, because anyone can make up a statistic, and I'm sure a lot of these companies that are already sustainable, they're already got the good ingredients. I'm gonna say they're probably not gonna lie. But at the same time, a lot of my trust has been taken away from me through a lot of different companies in my time. But then let's touch on the sugarcane. So you don't like the sugarcane plastic? Is it the packaging that's literally made from sugarcane? Is that what you don't like?
So no, I think it's more of I think it's better than plastic, right? Because then you're
Hmm.
not, like growing sugarcane is fine versus, getting oil from the ground and turning it into
Yeah,
plastic. I think the issue is that like there's not a system in place to recycle it.
right.
I think that's the problem.
Is
So
it
I
not
think we
like
need to.
biodegradable or something? Because it's sugarcane?
I don't think so.
Huh.
I don't
Okay.
think so. I don't think it's because I think it depends on what, because the one that I have, for example, like it literally looks like a plastic bottle, and there's no way that this is going to biodegrade in like if I put it in the compost bin. So I think there needs to be more products that are, in compostable packaging.
Hmm.
There's definitely more I've seen. There's this, I can't remember the name of the brand, but they basically have like these little capsules that are the outside is like biodegradable, but the inside is like a serum, and it's like a single use
Wow.
serum. But like the capsule itself, you can just throw in the compost bin, and I think like each jar has like maybe 30 little capsules in it. But it's cool that you can like just throw that in the compost bin after you're done. So I think more of that is what I would like to see in kind of the beauty skincare industry. Is just like it comes in a paper box, and then you basically can like compost whatever other whatever is like holding it.
Yeah, ideally, let's just compost everything. Just whatever we
Yes,
eat, whatever waste we have, whatever products and packaging we receive, that would be such a utopic future.
exactly. So we're I think we're it's definitely over the past couple of years it's getting there. I mean, even a couple of years ago there weren't that many options, but now there's so many different options popping up because people are demanding it, which I think is good.
I love it. I love the direction that things and businesses are going these days. Let's talk about storytelling for a moment here. So, you're quite active on Instagram and you also write quite a bit as well. And I'm sure you're on your TikToks, although I haven't checked. I'm not really on the TikToks too
Not
much.
really, not yet. Not really,
Not yet.
barely.
So, I think a big part of solving the issue we have with plastic products, with over consumerism, with these general things to educate the public, a big part of that is storytelling, whether that's me talking to you, me talking to friends and family. It's all one part of storytelling that can help either hinder or better our society. And so, with that, I wanted to take your advice on storytelling. So, you talk about plastic waste, the way you maybe phrase things or tell things or show things. How do you think about the most effective way to talk to people and to educate people on potentially better solutions and more sustainable solutions?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost is like kind of getting people to care. I think a lot of these issues kind of seem way over your head. But I like to break it down to people in terms of like how it's affecting them, right? So, like, how, let's say, if you're someone that eats fish, like the fish 9 times out of 10 have microplastics in them and you're eating microplastics, and it's like, whoa, like that's insane. So I think we have to like break it down on a human level of like, how does it affect me? Because the average person, they're just going about their day and they're not,
Mm,
thinking thinking that big picture. But I think just breaking it down to them as to how it is and will affect them, to get people to kind of have a better understanding. And then I think with that, just bringing it down to them in bite-sized pieces. I think if you're just like coming at them with these whole essays about climate change, it's just overwhelming and not approachable. But I think if you kind of break it down by small little bites of information, being like, oh, like your chapstick probably has petroleum in it, which means it's oil. And it's like, you don't think about that when you're buying chapstick, right?
mm.
So I think I try to find small things to kind of get people to think about that they normally wouldn't think about on a daily basis or not even realize that they're doing. Um, and it's just cool to see how, like, I remember one time someone DM'd me, they're like, I went to the store and I saw beeswax wrap, but I didn't know how to use it. And so I like explained to them how to use it. And it was just nice that like now they're using beeswax wrap instead
Mm.
of like single use plastic wrap. But I think I just like to like break down things in like tiny bite size pieces for people to kind of understand and learn. And it's just a lot easier to kind of get people on board that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a really good way to go about it. I've tried the whole guilt thing. Doesn't work in my experience. I did the whole like in Australia, a lot of our plastic we have a lot of plastic that ends up in the ocean
Hmm.
here. And that ends up going to low socioeconomic countries like Philippines,
Hmm.
Indonesia, and the like. And I used to guilt trip the kids over there, like, oh, your plastic cup that you're using, I bet that'll end up in some young Filipino kid's hand who lives in this,
Yeah.
and didn't end up too well in that conversation. But I like that perspective of really finding out what's in it for them in that, because everyone's different. Some people take on with regards to your skincare, some people do sustainable skincare for the ingredients, not even the packaging is the
Hmm.
bonus. So really understanding, it's the art of conversation. It's the hardest thing to do, unfortunately, especially as we are as communicators and storytellers. We have to find out what the other person wants. um,
When you feel
where
like you're
do
the
you usually
best you,
sit
that's when you're
with,
able to do the best
okay,
work, the
I
best,
understand that,
giving back. So I think
um,
if
I wanna be more
you really
sustainable.
prioritize
I'm
just
kind of
self-care and
starting to
taking care of
learn
you, like
what that
that's what's
means
going
in my
to,
life.
help the planet
I live
overall
an
as
average
well.
life right now, because I've just learned about this. Where do I start to change? What is the best chain of action for me to begin with, and where do I start to educate myself?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first step is to stop bringing things into your home that you don't need. Stop buying stuff.
Yep.
Step number one, saves you money and saves waste. Stop buying stuff. Um, and as you ask yourself, like when you're buying things, ask yourself, do I need this? Like, is this going to bring me joy? Is this something I'm going to actually wear and use? And I think that's a great first step, because then, you start creating the habit. Like when you're going to the grocery store, I'm not going to use the plastic bag. So I think those small things really do add up. Um, and then I think I always recommend people to like start in a certain area of their home. Usually I recommend kitchen first because I feel like that's where we produce the most waste if you think about it.
Mm.
And I tell them to like use all the item, like let's say you have single use Ziploc baggies, like you can use those in as long as they last. But after that, find a reusable alternative. I love stasher bags. They definitely are expensive compared to a Ziploc bag, but they're going to save you money overall. And you're not constantly buying Ziploc bags, for example. And, when it comes to food, composting is great. I know a lot of people, I don't know how it is in Australia, but in the US, like if you live in an apartment, like composting is like not a thing. And
Yep, same.
most young people live in apartments
Yep, 100%.
and composting's not a thing. So a lot of times there are cities that have, like if you live in a house, they have like curbside composting, like you would do your, regular trash.
Mhm.
Um, But if you don't, there's also like community gardens and farmers markets where you can drop off your compost. And when you start to like store your comp, because I usually just store my compost in the freezer so there isn't a smell or any issues. You realize like, oh wow, like this is a lot of food waste that like is not going to end up in a landfill. So I think just like taking it maybe one room at a time in your home, and kind of as you're going through these single use items, replacing them with um, reusable multi-use products. And I think getting kind of back to how things used to be when we used to make our own cleaning products, um, cook things from scratch, like I think
100%.
there's a lot there. So I think just starting in a specific area of your home. Obviously, my page and my website are informative, and I have a YouTube channel as well. And there's the creators that I listed that are also really helpful. But I think if you kind of just are looking, just starting with like a section of your home and looking for those alternatives is like a great place to start. And like, don't feel the need to, redo your whole entire home, but just start in a
Mm.
specific area. And then you just continually add on to that.
Yeah, starting small is a great way to adopt a new lifestyle always. Now I want to change it to another perspective. So I'm sure you've thought about this quite a bit, considering your work and you communicate a fair bit with brands and businesses. So we've tackled what it is for an individual to make these changes. Now, what about a brand or a business? Like, okay, we've been operating for X amount of years. We understand that the trend in consumers and in the population is people want a more sustainable option, which we do. People want a more climate friendly option, which we do, and et cetera, et cetera. Where did they look at? What questions should they be asking?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're like running a business, there needs to be like a holistic approach to it. Are you paying your workers fairly? Like, I think people are also demanding for ethical fashion, ethical products. We want to know where they're made, who's making them. We want to see what the factories look like. So it's always great when companies kind of have that on their website, and they're very transparent, and they kind of really give you the behind the scenes of how things are actually made. Um, and then when it comes to the product themselves, I think a lot of times I'll get products, but then they're sustainable, but then they came in bubble wrap, and
Mm,
or they're using regular tape versus paper tape. So like for me, if like you're gonna brand yourself as a sustainable brand, like it needs to be start to finish. Like you have to have thought it through. Like I always love when a brand like they use the paper tape and they're wrapping the item in paper, and like they clearly thought about start to finish. Um, about this the what's the most eco-friendly way of doing things, or there's like packing peanuts now that are now made from I think it's like cornstarch or something, and you can just like
mm,
dissolve it in the sink. So I always appreciate when brands are truly thinking about it from start to finish. And then I think just overall, like when it comes to like the branding and social media, like making sure you're like inclusive in the people that you're like showing the products on. Because I definitely feel like 2-3 years ago when I was kind of starting my journey, it wasn't the most diverse group of people on these sustainable brands pages. And it's like if we want everyone to be sustainable and feel a part of this kind of community, we have to have people that look like them also showing that they can live a sustainable lifestyle as well. So I think from the packaging to paying your workers to diversity and inclusion, it's kind of a holistic kind of way I think you need to approach it if you're a company.
for sure. I think holistic is a really good word. I think it's got to be one of the best words that we can associate with, because we can look at it in regards to our health, in regards to sustainability. Like we talked about
Mhm.
minimalism, it's not just having two pairs of shirts and one pair of shorts. It's what is that happiness factor and making that holistic. And I think it's awesome that you can adopt that perspective as a brand, as an individual, as an ambassador, as any label you kind of put yourself onto. But I want to kind of circle in the last few questions before we kind of end this conversation. And one of them is, I want to see what your kind of favorite doco is around the sustainability environmental industry sector.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
What's like your favorite doco that you've watched recently that's around the
Oh, you
concept of
mean
environment?
documentary?
Oh, sorry. Oh, I totally
Okay.
forget that's yeah,
I'm
documentary.
like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what is it? I think that's what he's
Yeah. Sorry.
saying. You know.
I was just talking about this the other day. I sometimes blur the lines with what is Australian slang and what isn't. Yep. Yep.
It's like
Documentary. Sorry.
Daco. Like I was like, what is he saying? Um I know there's the story of stuff, which is really good. Um there's Broken, which is like on Netflix and it kind of goes through just like how, various industries are very broken products and, different like how workers are being paid. There's another one that I cannot think of the name, but it's about like the fast fashion industry and how terrible it is.
Yep.
It's really eye opening because I think I used to be the person that went to H&M and all the places. One, because I was on a budget, and two, because like you don't think about it. You're not thinking
Mm,
about who made this because it's not like taught to you. So I think it's so important to kind of educate yourself, and you can literally like Google like various like Netflix documentaries on sustainability and like all the things. And there's so many different resources out there that you can easily find. But I think it's so good to just like educate yourself because then you become more aware, and then you start making um, changes in your daily life, and then you also are able to share that with other people too. But I think
for sure.
documentaries like are a great way. It's very eye-opening. It's and also minimalism is a great one if you're trying to
Mm,
get into minimalism. Marie Kondo, I think even though Marie Kondo's organizing, it's still the same sentiment of like, do I need this
mm.
item? What is this? Is this bringing me joy? What's the purpose of this thing in my life? And I think minimalism, sustainability kind of all have that sort of feel to it as well. But yes, documentaries are like a great way to start and a great way to kind of share with other people about sustainability.
For sure, and the only thing I'd add to that is documentaries are also a great way to find your passion in the space. So sustainability is such a big word.
Hmm.
For you, you're obviously quite passionate about the fashion since it's been brought up like 3 or 4 times, and rightfully so. It's such a big, like you said, it's a big issue. A lot of which we don't talk about. I've only watched a little bit around fast fashion, but I want to mention on a side note here. There's some really cool ideas that are coming out. Like we have a few brands in Australia, and I know there's some in the US and the UK, and
Hmm.
it's really awesome to see them. Where it's like you buy this shirt and you send them like your measurements and stuff, and they'll fit it exactly to who you are, and it's not
Hmm.
that much. Like we're talking, I think a shirt was maybe $100 Australian, maybe 80 or 70 US. So it's not like holy crap, but it's for life. So if you ever have a
Hmm.
tear or a rip, or you need you lose weight or you gain weight, you just send it back. They fit it for free. They send it
Hmm.
back, and you can do the same with jeans. You can do the same with dresses, with jumpers. Like it's insane the
Interesting.
concepts that are really coming out that are so unique. And the jeans, like they're a bit more. I think they're like 300 or 400 Australian, so about 250, 300 US.
Hmm.
And but like that is so cool and so unique. And I understand that
Yeah.
it's not within everyone's budget. And I'm not out here buying a $400 pair of jeans, but it's really cool how you can. There's no limit as to how we can tackle the issue of fast fashion. That like the sky is quite theoretically and literally the limit, which is really
Hmm.
cool.
Exactly, exactly. So, I mean, on one hand, it's like it's nice that you're like giving people jobs, but we need to be putting them in like, you know, well-built factories that aren't going to collapse, and they're actually, getting breaks and getting benefits and all the things that, would make a sort of ethical factory. Um, but yeah, it's pretty crazy all the different things you see popping up now. I know there's a lot of like return programs and like, oh, you can recycle with us. But yeah, I think it's just when you're buying quality clothing that's meant to last, like, that's kind of the best thing you can do.
100%. I'm going to utilize your words of wisdom one more time. So, at the end of my episodes, I like to leave guests with an opportunity to speak their mind for 1 to 2 minutes. It could be something in regards to what we were talking about today, or it could be something completely irrelevant, something you've been thinking about recently. But Jhánneu, thank you so much. And I want to give you the platform for 1 to 2 minutes to just speak your mind on whatever it is you wish, to leave us with one more nugget.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot.
I love it. Got to do it.
One more nugget. I mean, I think um, just start with taking care of yourself. I think that's something I'm always just trying to find the balance of. You know, I work a lot, and I'm trying to be the best version of myself, trying to be the best human, trying to be the best um, person that lives on this planet. But I'm realizing that like all of it just kind of starts with you and starts with taking care of yourself. So I'm just constantly learning how to do that better. And I just would encourage other people to like really just take care of themselves and find time to rest and relax. And, you know, when you feel like you're the best you, that's when you're able to do the best work, the best, you know, giving back. So I think if you really prioritize just self-care and taking care of you, like that's what's going to, you know, help the planet overall as well.
Awesome. What a beautiful way to end this conversation. Got to take care of yourself. Look, Jhánneu, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom. Thank you so much for as well being on social media and on the World Wide Web, sharing tips, something that is vitally important for us to transition away from unsustainable ways of living. I'm stoked to have you on there as a creator to really share that in an efficient way so that we can lean away from these climate intensive, wasteful products and lifestyles that are not serving anyone except a few key players at the top there. So we want to definitely phase away from that. And thank you for being part of that platform for a lot of people online. You're obviously making quite a bit of an impact, which is awesome to see. And thank you again for coming on and sharing your wisdom on this podcast. And we will speak to you next time.
Thank you.
Hi there. Welcome to the end of the episode. Thank you again, Jhánneu, for coming on and sharing your wisdom. I hope everyone got something out of this episode, even if it's one golden nugget. If you did, you can connect with Jhánneu further and let her know on her Instagram, which I've linked in the show notes. She also has a website, which I'll put down there as well. And while you're on Instagram, head over to plant.paradigm as well and click on that follow button if you haven't already. But I like to keep these outros nice and short. Just wanted to wish everyone a fantastic week. And we'll see you on next week's episode. Until then, stay happy, eat plants, peace.